Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. The November MakerBox has arrived and we're going to open it up, check out all the cool new filaments for this month, print out some stuff, and I'm going to share my results with you guys, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me here on the Print 3D channel. Like I was saying, the November MakerBox has arrived and I'm anxious to see what's inside. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig right into this month. Now, if you've been watching my channel at all in the last few months, you can see that we've really been doing some in-depth filament deep dives into what's in these boxes. So for this month, we're going to try and speed through it a little bit and focus on the prints. So we're going to get right into the box. I'm going to show you the filaments, we're going to do our measurements, and we're going to get right to printing. So first off, a huge thank you to MakerBox for sending this out every month for us to test and review on the channel. Of course, we haven't been compensated in any way. We just get to try out some cool filaments. And if you've seen any of my videos, which you can watch here, you see that we use up almost every little bit of filament when we do our testing, and I try to show you all the coolest prints. So let's go ahead and get right into this month's box, which is for November. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the MakerBox system, all that information will be down in the description, as usual, along with links to the models that we're going to print, and I'll show you near the end of the video. So sorry, headphone users. So we're going after the Haribo crowd. So we have right off the bat some Haribo. Got some stickers, it looks like, from Treed Filament. Treed and G-Code Me. Oh, that's an interesting one. And one from Atomic Filament. Cool, I've used Atomic Filament before in one of the Maker boxes, and it's really good filament. Well, there's a read this. Get the most out of your Maker box. It's their referral program. And then how to give a dice calendar as a gift in 4 easy steps. Oh, so this is that dice service, custom dice for tabletop gaming. And that's with pipsmountain.com. So if you watch any of my other videos, we unboxed a little introduction to them. And here is the G-Code Me. I'm gonna make sure that there's no QR codes on here. There's something interesting to check out. You guys can pause the video and look at that. And I'll look into this. It looks like it's just a G-code verification service, it looks like. See, upload end product G-code and slicer settings. Highlight words in here are layers of security, G-code visualization, G-code pre-check, detailed filter and search features. Allow for the download and upload of both G-code and slicer profiles that work with the exact 3D printer filament. This might be an interesting little service, and according to the back of it, well, I guess their concern is the malicious G-code that you might find in sites that have pre-prepared files. So this might be an interesting solution. I've never heard of it. I'll have to look into it. I can't recommend it at this point, but I don't know anything about it. So, such as the M500 command. It's got me interested and I want to look more into it. All right, so let's dig into the filaments. The first one we have is some Hips Natural from Toner Plastics. Now, I've heard of these guys, Toner Plastics. I've never used any of their filament before. This is their, like I said, their Hips Natural with a hot end temperature of 220 to 235, bed temperature to 80 from 80 to 100 C, speed 50 to 90 millimeters per second. So they actually want you to run this a little bit fast. And it's Hips material, so it's actually a dissolvable thermoplastic, which is ideal for printing supports with ABS parts. Hips is easily dissolved in limonene and prints at similar settings to ABS. It is less prone to warping than ABS, making it perfect for brims and rafts on small and large parts alike. Also good for general printing. Selected for this month based on customer request at Earth. Awesome. So this was a request from somebody who has one of their Maker boxes and wanted to see some Hips material in there, and they chose Toner Plastics. And it's dissolvable support material. I wonder if it can be used as just a printing material instead. It's an interesting question. I think I've used Hips material in the past and it was colored. But this is actually designed for being support material that we could be dissolving. So let me cover up that QR code so you guys can see what we got here in our first filament sample. And obviously it's natural, so not a lot to see there. It's a very stiff material. Feels like it might be somewhat brittle. So this will be definitely something to investigate, to figure out how to print with it. Next up, we have some atomic filament, and this is their Candy Apple Golden Pearl. Interesting. So, got ahead of myself there looking at everything. PLA Candy Apple Golden Pearl from Atomic Filament, and the hot end temperature is 190 to 230. The bed temperature is room to 60 C. Speed is not listed. Fan yes, other none. And it says the info on here is a deep, rich, and bold golden candy apple color with a gold pearl shimmer with multi-size pearl particles for a fantastic look. Previously sold as pearl dark cherry, but revised formula for better pearl look and gold shimmer. Renamed to be a better suited material in July of 2019, I'm guessing, because it says 7/2019. So this is really, oh, there's that pearl. Okay, now I can see it. You'll be able to see this. All right, so let me cover up this QR code so you guys can see. So you guys can see the front of the package. Got a noisy bird right outside the studio today, so, and I have a very thin door. He is right outside. So anyway, check out the back so you can see the color on the back. All right, so that's our second filament sample. Next up, we have some treed. Oh, this is flexible. I can tell it's sagging in the bag, and it says flexibility right on the package cover here. This is made in Italy, so this is their flexibility filament. Hot end temperature is 230 to 250. The bed temperature is 80 to 100 C. Speed is 20 to 30 millimeters per second, which is pretty quick for flexible filaments, in my experience. Cooling, it says low. And the info is a highly technical, flexible material, perfect for any situation. A very high abrasive and scratch resistance. Flexibility is a true wear-proof 3D printed objects with exceptional thermal resistance characteristics. Very low hydroscopy, no need to worry for humidity anymore. That's a very bold statement. We're going to have to definitely check that out. I don't live in a very humid place, but I can certainly make this room very humid. So this will be interesting. Treed flexibility. It's a pretty cool looking orange, and it's got a very matte finish, and it almost has a little bit of translucence to it. So let me go ahead and cover up that QR code so you guys can see the front of the package. Like I said, this will be an interesting filament to try because they're boasting that you don't have to worry about humidity. And here is the back so you guys can see. We'll get close-up shots of everything before we roll out. Oh, and this is a much different package than all the other ones. This is from FilamentPM. Shop.filamentpm.com, and it says made in CZ. Is that the Czech Republic? No, but this is some Frijet material, color black, diameter 1.75, tolerance, temperature 220 to 250. This is interesting. Before we even go anywhere near printing this, we're going to have to do some research on this one. It's a really dark black. It feels like it. I don't even want to say what kind of filament this could be. It could be flexible. It could be a rigid filament. This could be some sort of ABS or HIPS or PLA. I have no idea. I have to say that is packaged very, very well. And this QR code, which is on a translucent, we'll show you the front of it. So that was the sample from FilamentPM. It's a FilamentPM sample this month, pre-packaged. So let's go ahead and cover it up, because even though showing you the back of it, just so you can see, no other information out here about that one. So those are our four samples for this month's MakerBox. So we have a interesting filament called FilamentPM. It's their Frijet material. We have some treed filament some treed brand filament, their flexibility, which is their flexible filament. We have the classic atomic filament with some of their gorgeous candy apple golden pearl, which is going to be super cool to print with. And we have some of this very interesting HIPS material from Toner Plastics, which should be used as support. But either way, it looks like we have some very interesting plastic to check out for this month's MakerBox. Again, this is the November MakerBox. and all the information will be down in the description. But first, before we can do anything, we do a little bit of research on this new FilamentPM, their Frijet filament, and we do have to figure out how to print the hips. But before we go any further, we do have to do our basic test, which is the bend test, the clip test, and check the diameter of all this filament and see how consistent it is, which is one of the natural parts of my testing on the channel. All right, so we'll move the cameras around and we'll start doing our testing, and then we'll start doing some printing. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so we have all of our prints done from the selection of filaments from this month's MakerBox, and you might notice right off the bat that there is no carabiner here amongst the prints. That's because in the last video, which you can watch here, I did a bit of strength testing, and I don't feel like I really gave the filament a fair shake. There could have been some printing issues or other things, so until I figure out a better way to do some sort of strength testing, I'm going to go back to the same thing I did before, which was really just show you how well the filament prints, what settings I used, and of course the results from all of that. So first off, the first thing we started with was the Atomic Filament Candy Apple Golden Pearl. And of course we always start with the Cali Cat. Now I have two Cali Cats here because I broke his little leg off taking him off the print bed, and I want a successful Cali Cat for my collection of filament Cali Cats. So I went ahead and printed it again, and you can see that right there. And it turned out great. Now the settings that we used and listed on the package are 190 to 230 with a bed temperature of room to 60. So I went ahead and split it down the middle like I normally do, and I started with 210. And I had great success. There wasn't a lot of curling around the base of the head, but there is a little bit of stringing between the tail and the body, which is pretty nominal and usually can be fixed with retraction settings. But overall, I think this Cali Cat turned out pretty awesome. I'm really happy with the way this looked. So of course we move on to the Rose Twist Vase. Now, this really brought out what they call their Candy Apple Golden Pearl. And I hope you guys can see that in the close-up camera. I'll turn it in a few seconds, but I want to talk about it first. And I'm going to hold the Cali Cat. This filament is amazing looking. You can kind of see it on the Cali Cat. There's a little bit of the candy apple golden pearl thing going on, but you really notice it when you get more geometry to look at, and especially some sort of geometry that has visible polygons that'll really refract the light off of it. And this turned out awesome. This is some really, really cool filament. I'm super happy with the way this looks. And of course, the next thing we print out is the Prusa printer part. Now I'm going to be printing this with all samples that I can print with. And this turned out great. I can actually see a really cool Prusa clone printed with this type of filament, this actual atomic filaments candy apple golden pearl. It's a very odd combination of words. But this turned out great. There was no warping. All the top layers look amazing. There was, I think, very minimal stringing. And again, we're printing this at 210 degrees on the sanded acrylic, and it turned out great. Now, I'm not going to do any strength testing because, like I prefaced before, I don't think I'm giving the filaments a fair shake. I should be doing a more professional testing, but we'll work on that at a later date. But this print looks really, really cool. I really want to get a whole roll of this and print out some printer parts or even possibly a CNC machine out of this, because this stuff looks really cool. You can really see that kind of candy apple look to it with the golden pearl, or the golden pearl in it. And it just has a very unique finish. And I really love this filament. So Atomic Filaments Candy Apple Golden Pearl had some really great success printing it. Really love the way it looked. I've got just a little bit left, probably not enough to print a carabiner, but I may do that just because I love the way this filament looks. And eventually having a bunch of those carabiners on a string with filament samples for strength testing might prove to be a really cool video as a overall guide to strength on filament, but we'll talk about that at a later date. Moving on to the next filament, which is this FilamentPM, or their Frijet. Now, I did go onto their website and look up the information. I don't remember offhand if this was like a PLA or a PETG. I do know I had a lot of problems printing. Now, first off, I went right with the sanded acrylic bed because I wanted to see if I could get it to print. Anytime I have some interesting filaments that could be different materials like a PETG or a polyester of some sort, I always try the sanded acrylic bed because I think more often than not, people want to see how easy it is to print on pretty much any surface, and sanded acrylic falls into that any surface category. But the bottom of it pussed it off. So I went with the suggested settings on the website, and they suggest a bed temperature. And I don't have the other information in front of me, but I'll put it down here so you guys can see. So I installed the heated bed on the G-Max, which is the printer you can see behind me. And I went ahead, because I jumped ahead of myself, I really wanted to see a rose twist vase. I went ahead and printed the Cali Cat. Now this is going to be really tough to see because this has like a stealth fighter matte finish to it. So I'll put this on a bit of an angle. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that. But the filament actually prints really, really well. I didn't have any problems with it until I got to the Prusa part, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But overall, I think this looks really, really cool. This is some very interesting filament. I've never heard of this company. Again, this is some sort of blended filament. It's not just PLA. And I thought this would be a really good, useful filament for printer parts. So after we got our Cali Cat, and let me just tell you that the temperature range is 220 to 250, and I had success at 235 with really good layer bonding. So I went ahead and printed the rose twist vase, and we did use the MadMonkey assist, and we are using the heated bed, and I think I had it at 80 degrees C. And there's a little bit of MadMonkey on the bottom that reminded me we did use the MadMonkey assist. But this turned out amazing. I mean, again, it has that stealth fighter finish, matte finish to it. So it's really hard to see, even in the close-up camera, but I'll let that sit for a minute while we talk. It printed out perfectly. There were no problems whatsoever. It has a funky smell to it, and I'm not sure if that's something I would expose anyone to. I should be using some sort of ventilation or heated enclosure for some of these filaments, which is why you don't see any prints for the hips, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So once this rose twist vase printed, the first thing I wanted to do, and let me give you guys a little spin on that so you can see, it has kind of a metallic finish to it, or kind of a glint finish to it, but it doesn't. It's just the filament itself. It's a very unique, some sort of blended filament. Next, I went to the Prusa part, and here you can see it. I kept the fail all together because I wanted you guys to see that even with the heated bed, this thing worked like a surfboard. And I did use the MadMonkey. We're sitting at 80 degrees C. We're printing at 235 C, and it just worked. I mean, it is really, really curled up. It just pulled right off the print bed, stuck to the extruder head. I was watching it. That's why we have this and not a busted printer. And I don't know, it didn't perform like it did in the other prints. So this is probably a filament for more technical use, not for the hobbyist who would have a heated enclosure and would be able to do more testing with it to find out the optimum print temperature settings for it. But I mean, the prints that I got out, they look really cool. I mean, this Cali Cat's actually pretty nice. I mean, there's not a lot of stringing between the tail and the body. I don't see any layer misalignment. It is a little retraction spikes on here on the ears because I leave the seam at random so it prints the fastest. And there is like a few what look like skipped layers, but I think it has something to do with the coast feature. But either way, this print looks really, really good. And this print turned out awesome, and it seems pretty solid. I'm not going to crush it, but it seems pretty solid, as opposed to the one on the acrylic bed where the bottom just came right off. But again, it just came right up off the heated bed with the MadMonkey and build tack and just curled up real nicely. So we didn't get a successful Prusa part print, but the filament is interesting. Again, I think this is more for a technical use for someone who has a more technical printer with a heated enclosure and such like that. But interesting filament nonetheless, a really interesting addition to this month's MakerBox. Now moving on to the fun filament of the month, this is Flexibility from Treed Filaments. And it's a flexible filament. And of course, I did use the heated bed on this, and the temperature range is 230 to 250 and 80 to 100 degrees C, printing it at 20 to 30 millimeters per second. And flexible filament is a challenge for most people. I don't really have any problems with it. I mean, I did pull the pads, off of his little Peets there, taking it off the print bed, only because I was just in such a hurry. I really wanted to see it because it printed. Again, this is the Cali Cat. This is flexible filament, and it turned out awesome. There's a little bit of stringing on it, and it does have kind of a weird surface finish, like there is the possibility that some moisture got in, but it wasn't steaming and it wasn't popping, it wasn't doing any of that. It just has a very unique finish to the Cali Cat. Now, we printed this out at 240 degrees C with an 85 degree bed, and I did print this out at 10 millimeters per second, and I moved it up to 15 millimeters per second for the two Vase modes. I believe it was 15 millimeters per second. Either way, it was a really slow speed. It wasn't exactly the speed that they suggested. And of course, we used only 20% cooling because the G-Max fan really does a good job of cooling off the parts. But the Cali Cat actually turned out pretty good. I was really surprised it printed, and it's super squishy. I mean, I did use 2 perimeters, so it's going to have a little bit of rigidity to it. But overall, it's a really cool filament. I love this orange, Team Orange, of course. And it turned out great. I'm really happy with the results. And of course, we printed out the Rose Twist Vase next, and this is super soft. It's a single perimeter vase mode print with 2 bottom layers, and it turned out awesome. I was gonna sit there and wiggle for a few seconds, but it turned out awesome. And if you follow me on social media, you've seen this print along with this print. This is from Jordan, aka MadMonkey on the Twitters. But the Rose Twist Vase by Riskable turned out great, and I love this model because now I've actually printed it in every single kind of material imaginable, and I always get a good print. I always have something to show you guys, and this is first try, and it is just super squishy. And I love this filament. I definitely could see some fun uses for it. So after we did, and I didn't print the Prusa part because, well, it is very difficult to print with at a slow speed like that. So it's super long print times. And I can imagine with infill and everything else, it really wouldn't be a good thing to test on because it would have no purpose. It's flexible filament. You don't want to print printer parts with it. But moving on, this is a polygon style cup or bumpy cup. I'll put the link down in the description for all the models that we printed as always. And this is from Jordan, aka MadMonkey, and you can find this on my mini factory. And this was a really cool print because it really brought out the color of the filament and the shine, and I really got some consistent layering on here. And again, we're printing super, super slow on the heated bed, and this turned out awesome. And of course, it's squishy. It's super squishy. I love this thing. So success with the Treed flexibility filament. Didn't have any problems with this at all. I was gonna try and print this on the sanded acrylic, but this orange licorice works best on a heated bed. So moving on to the last bag of filament, the last sample of filament, this is the Hips from Toner Plastic. And the only reason why I don't have even a sample of a trying to print with this is because enclosure and ventilation advised. I've used Hips materials before. It's super stinky. I really don't want to have any toxic fumes in the house or in the shop. So I have other filaments that I'm definitely going to be catching up on once I figure out how to make a heated enclosure. Now, I watched Joel Telling do this with Bill Doran, I believe, and they made a really cool heated or enclosure for a printer. And I think I'm going to follow that kind of template and use those same basically readily available materials to create a heated enclosure for the printer. So again, really sorry Toner Plastics, really sorry MakerBox, I'm really sorry you guys. I can't show you anything from the Hips Natural. You'll see this soon, I promise you. So overall, the samples from this month's MakerBox, I really am happy with the results. This Candy Apple Golden Pearl from Atomic Filament is really awesome. I really want to print some printer parts. It has a deep red kind of blood color to it, probably really good for Halloween. This interesting little FilamentPM FR jet, this was interesting to print with. Stinks that I had a fail, but it warped, so there wasn't much I could do. And of course, our squishy fun filament, the Flexability from Treed, and I'll put links for all these companies down in the description, along with links to where you can sign up for your own MakerBox, and like I said previously, links to models that we printed today. Unfortunately, no Hips prints, but we'll figure out a way to get this printing on a printer, hopefully with just the G-Max and some sort of enclosure. So for now, I think we're done with this month's samples from the MakerBox, and a huge shout out to MakerBox for sending this along for us to test and review on the channel. Of course, we weren't compensated in any way. We do get to keep the filaments, but I try to use up all of it and give you guys good print results so you guys can see how cool this really is. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I hope you guys found this episode interesting and informative. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out those affiliate links down in the description, along with other ways you can support the channel. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon.